recession. We're talking about, you know, all the headlines right now are about how operators, property managers are really struggling uh, you know, uh, to collect rent.
Right.
Um, you know, just countless articles about the struggles of collecting rent. And really, I don't even think the shoe has dropped. I really feel like May, this upcoming month, is going to be the month of struggle, not April. Um, and so, just people are going to be feeling the pinch even more. There's a lot of individuals out there, you know, um, that didn't buy their buildings cash like we did. So it's a tad bit unfortunate. A lot of folks are probably improperly leveraged, and are concerned about making that mortgage payment. Um, and obviously, there's only one way to make the payment: is either you're gonna write a check out of your own personal pocket, or you're gonna collect rent. And right now, collecting rent is a bit of a struggle when you consider that a lot of local governments have put a freeze on evictions. So a lot of tenants feel like they have you know a green light to kind of really just put paying rent on the back burner. So how do we navigate that as property managers? Um, and how do we mitigate this bottlenecking that can happen here? Like I said, in April, if not in April, definitely possibly in May. So how do we get ahead of it? How do we market our units? What can we do? What techniques can we have? Because it's not only just the fact that tenants are not paying rent. If you have a thriving property or you're doing well, the market is still softening. I'm still, having to offer concessions, even though there's really nothing wrong with our bottom line. Still have to offer concessions because our competitors are offering recessions, but they're hurting, and so they're offering 1 month's free rent, waiving of security deposits, and so that plays a major um, has a major influence on the psyche of your prospect tenant. So, it forces me and forces my hand to offer concessions and things of the like. So just thinking about that, thinking about how to focus on the curb appeal, and then in the meantime, if you have an apartment building, making sure that you focus on the tenants that you do have, because a bird in the hand is worth more than two in the bush. So making sure that your current tenants you're focusing on that. You're focusing on your renewals, because it's a lot easier to market the tenants that you currently have on the property. So what strategies are we to use, and how are we going to go about doing that? It's really important to figure out how to stretch the NOI as much as we can, get as much as we can out of that NOI right now. And people are looking for ideas and really want to hear people who have been through this before, and we obviously know I've been through this. I was there in 2011. I was there. I'm sorry, not 2011, but uh, 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 when the nation came under attack, when the Twin Towers fell, I was there. I was there in the recession of 2007 to 2010. So, weathered some storms. So, it's always good to hear from individuals who have weathered storms in the past and come through it. So, that's why we're doing what we're doing.
It makes sense. And yeah, thank you for putting this together. And guys, this is for you guys. Please be stingy. Please feel free to ask your questions. I'm going to kick it off with a question. Um, so competitors are offering concessions, and how does that affect properties? Your property's leasing operations.
It affects it. Um, it has a tremendous impact, unfortunately, negatively,
Mm,
because sometimes a lot of operators, your competitors, may not be running. They may not have strong operations, as strong as operations as you may have. Um, they may have just been getting by on the market over the last several years, and now they're forced to manage. And typically, when situations happen like they're happening, people have a knee-jerk reaction versus to use fundamentals and skill sets to then start throwing concessions and throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
okay.
So you see your competitors start waiving security deposits, application fees, and just totally messing up the market, because they panic. And when you do that, and you know, to steal
Talk, you're trying to talk.
the governor's what was that, Governor Cuomo in New York, to steal his line, you got to release the valve slowly. You know, you
Right.
just don't want to open it up with concessions and first month's free rent and waiving security deposits and waiving application fees, because you ruin the market. But unfortunately, people do that, and um, you know, it's at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it hurts the market. So what it does is it forces us to have to offer some sort of concessions as well, because most of our prospect tenants will come to us and say, what specials are you offering? It's like, well, we're not offering any specials. I mean, they may take it. Of course, they're going to go to your competitors. So you want to be able to offer something, and so I did. There's a few things that I did. I switched up, the concessions, but I offered a shorter term lease. So when I lowered the rent, I didn't include the lower rent on a 12-month lease. I did the least amount we can do, which is a 7-month in the state of Florida. So I'm not carrying that kind of discount all the way through, 12 months. So there's certain things that I did to be able to offset, but ultimately, yeah, when your competitors go low, and unfortunately, forces you to have to make some adjustments in your concessions and marketing.
Excellent. And definitely opening the floor up for questions if you guys have any questions regarding concessions or leasing operations. Does anyone currently own property? All right.
Just a rental.
Okay. Got a rental?
Townhouse, 2-2 townhouse.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, I have another question for you, B.
Uh-huh.
How do I perform solid marketing surveys on competitors right now in times like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish there was an easy way to sit back on your computer and drink your coffee and get all the information you need. But tell Rick to bring us all at Apple. Let me bring Rick's
on video.
Bringing Rick snacks. Bring us all snacks, Rick.
Yeah.
What's up, Bryan? How are you?
What's up? I'm good. How are you? How's everybody doing? All right. Sorry about that, but yeah, man. It's. I wish I had something easy to say, but for us, it's getting back to fundamentals. It's always fundamentals. Getting out there and marketing and shopping your competitors and visiting the properties is really going to be key. Understanding what your competitors are doing, understanding how they're showing their rental units. It's going to be key, more so than it was ever. And I hear that we got some single family and duplex operators on the call, which I'm really glad we do. They have to really get to fundamentals more than I do in an apartment building. When you have apartments, you can afford to make mistakes. I can hide mistakes because of the economies of scale. When you have smaller units, you really have to be savvy. So you got to get on your marketing game. You really got to kind of shop competitors. You really have to play up the characteristics of a single family home with better pictures, better curb appeal. Your product is going to appeal to more people, but you got to make sure you're putting your product out there to compete with a lot of the Class A properties, because you're going to see right now in the next couple of months, guys, a lot of these Class A properties that offer Wi-Fi and cafeteria and coffee shops and pretty much weight rooms, and they're almost like cruise ships these days. The way these Class A properties operate, they're going to be basically doing the same thing, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because they've developed these assets. They've got these bridge loans. They've got this debt hanging over. They borrowed all this money, and they were anticipating absorption. And now, because of COVID-19, this absorption is going to, it's basically bottlenecking. And so they're going to be offering concessions. So, your single family rentals, really know who your Class A, if you have single family assets, duplexes with Class A in your market, understand what they're doing, understand how you can position your particular product against theirs. Showing that, hey, listen, you'd rather have a house versus neighbors. You're going to have to play that up. You have to take better pictures, I'm finding that, in my opinion, um, the Facebook marketplace is a much better atmosphere with dealing with prospect tenants and capturing prospect tenants' attention than Zillow right now. And I really don't see that slowing down or even changing once we come out of this COVID-19 crisis. We're probably going to stick with Facebook and really work that marketplace and making sure we're putting quality pictures and videos out there of our property. But really just getting out there, shopping your competitors, Nathan, seeing what your competitors are doing, understanding your market is going to be really key.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'd love to once again open the floor up for questions.
Hey, Brian, it's Rick. I know I always ask questions, but
Go ahead.
I have some feedback. Yeah, I have some maybe just a tip for some folks on the call, that just to touch base on what you were saying as far as like photos and things of that nature. Something that I did when I was renting mine out was I took pictures with my iPhone, and they say make sure you're taking clear pictures. And then what I did was I went on to Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, paid $5 or $7 for somebody to go in and edit them and touch them up and make them look professional. So you don't have to actually hire somebody for $150, $200. You can, make sure you take good pictures with your phone and then spend $5 or $7. And I mean, they looked awesome. I had them, they took the electrical wire lines out of the picture from the outside view and just made it look cleaner. But I mean, that's just a little tip. That was like $5 or $7, however much I spent.
Yeah.
So just an idea out there, because I know a lot of people don't want to spend money for the photographer, but it is important.
Yes, it is.
My immediate question is, I have the renters that I have are coming up on their 60-day, I guess, notice would be May 1st. I guess where I send them the letter saying, hey, are you renewing or what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
How would you change your verbiage on kind of what's in your book or anything like that based on the situation we have going on right now? Or would you keep your process pretty standard on that, as far as because you just said earlier in the call that you wanted to it's easier to keep the people there than to get new folks, and I don't know if they're going to pay rent in May. We've had discussions, they seem to be okay, but assuming that they pay in May and they continue to pay on time, obviously we want to keep them there. Would you change your verbiage on that letter or any strategy to make sure we can get them to re-sign?
Yeah, I'll probably not change the verbiage. What I would do is to make sure that they stay, is I would really try to get my finger on the pulse of what they're going through financially. And I probably would offer and entice them with a better signing bonus. And that's what I'm doing with my renewals, is I'm enticing folks with a better signing bonus. Because right now, yeah, people are saying first month's free rent. And that's really understanding your market too, Rick. Get out there and see what other people are offering with comparable product to yours. But at the end of the day, making sure that you're fully prepared to offer a higher concession. So if you were like giving $50 off for renewals, free carpet clean, touch-up paint, whatever you are offering, maybe an upgrade. I think upgrades are something that, people like, especially if they're going to be sitting home. What if I can upgrade your vanity? What if I can upgrade your stove? You're going to be doing a lot more cooking, because we're home now. There's no telling when we're going to be able to get back out to the restaurants and things of that nature. So if I upgrade your stove and give you a stove upgrade, or maybe a brand new microwave, what if I give you an upgrade package? Those are the things that I'm really selling our renewals on, is understanding what they're going through and then offering them, packages that make sense, not just a free ceiling fan. Nobody gives a damn about a free ceiling fan right now. $50 sounds good, but $50 ain't, I'm
I don't care about that. I gave them $50 last month to Publix.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for paying your April rent on time. Here's $50, and it didn't even get like a thank you message, nothing.
Right. Yeah. These are, exactly. But these are the things that we have to look at, and we have to say, well, if we have to spend on, how much let's think about it real quick. How much do you spend, and what's the payback period? How much are you going to spend on, if that tenant moves out? That's number one. How much is it going to cost to make ready that unit? how long do you think that unit's going to sit? Because I'm going to tell you, if that unit goes vacant, it's going to sit a lot longer than it normally would. I don't care where your product is located. You can't tell me it's not going to sit longer. You know, the facts are the facts. And if you're
Right.
in denial, then you're just in denial. But it's going to probably sit longer. It's not probably, it will sit longer.
Right.
So you got to talk about the loss to lease income. You got to talk about the income that's going to take to get it market ready. I mean, that's thousands of dollars. I would much rather give you 175, 250, 350. It's probably even at $300, it's probably still cheaper, much cheaper to give them $300 cash. You know, keep the gift certificates and all that. I'm going to give you $300 cash because people love cash right now. You know, those saying cash is king, it's king. So, you know, you might want to do a small upgrade, you know, package, new stove, whatever you can. And then think about putting cash in their hands up to $300 to where it really starts to make sense for folks. Yes, $50 is nice, but at the end of the day, $300 is much nicer. Cash is much nicer, and I think can go a long way. So, you know, and though some that may argue that my point, my question is simply then go home, do the math tonight. Most of you are already home, but, you know, do the math tonight. How much is it going to take to get that unit ready? On average, we all know we spend almost up to $850 to $1,000 to $1,500 to get units ready. And then once that gets ready, how long do you think it's going to sit on the market? You know, so if your rents are $1,200, $900, you're roughly looking at $30 to $40 a day. So if it sits for a month, you do the math. So is it, you know, am I crazy for giving $300 to keep somebody in there right now? Probably not. You know, so, you know, hopefully that advice, hopefully.
I appreciate that.
Alexandra said she used the Fiverr trick as well, and it worked out great.
Good. A lot of other hustlers out there.
Yep, yep. Hey, Nona has a question. Nona, would you like to ask your question to Bryan?
Don't be shy. I'm not going to bite.
All right, you're unmuted. You're good to go.
Hi, Bryan. Thank you very much for all your guidelines. It's awesome. So I'm actually asking you, I have 8 units in Oakland, California, and I'm curious, am I allowed to go ahead and ask my tenants who did not pay rent for the month of April for some kind of written documentation that they indeed lost their income? Because I know some have not, but they're still not paying rent. But again, I don't want to assume any bad things about everyone has their own circumstances. So am I allowed to ask them for documentation that they indeed lost an income? And also, can I ask them to show me the proof that they indeed apply for some kind of unemployment or subsidizing programs? Because what I have done in advance, I have informed all my tenants about all the available programs. I called personally these different entities and asked what needs to be done, and then referred this information to my tenants. So I basically provided them with all the information that they that could be beneficial to them. So I'm just wondering if I'm allowed to ask them for this in writing or not.
Great question. First of all, that's a great question. And I have a thought, and then I have a question. Then I have an answer that's based upon my gray hair in the business, my wisdom in the business. So we'll start with my wisdom in the business. No, we'll start with the law. You're allowed to ask those type of questions. I don't think there's any protections in place that allow the tenants to not allow the landlord to ask a certain amount of questions as far as are they going to be able to cover their rent or pay rent. As far as asking them, have they, and to prove that they have applied. If they say they've applied and they haven't shown any proof, I guess for me, does it really matter? I'm more so concerned about how long the eviction process and the hold and the pause would be. So once I got an idea that the tenant has basically lied and hasn't proven, I'm not going to really try to hound you to come after proof, because the fact of the matter is, it's clear that you're probably not going to pay me, and your intention is not to pay me if you're not keeping me in the loop, especially when I call. I'm not saying that you should stop or pause calling them and reaching out to them and asking them, but if you're really not getting the answers that then I would say that it's probably wiser to really focus on having a conversation with them, is referencing to are you referencing them to them that eventually the pause is going to be lifted on the eviction process, and that this is eventually going to go against their record. And that's the kind of notices that I would put out. Nothing threatening, but just basically saying, guys, understand, hey, listen, the eviction court is a pause. This is not a free fall not to pay your rent. I know everyone kind of feels like, hey, look, I'm entitled not to pay rent. I'm scared. And granted, I respect that. This is a business as well. We have to keep your lights on. We have to keep you guys safe at your properties. We've got to keep and maintain the property. So, if they can't pay rent at this time, I'm not really asking for proof. What I am going to ask for is some sort of compromise. Is there any way you can pay me a portion of your rent? Can we finance your rent? So if your rent's $1,000 out there in Oakland, or $1,200, can you pay me, $150? Can you pay me $150 now? Can we divide it up? Whatever what can you pay me now? Can we finance this thing? And I'm really trying to get some kind of income in the door, so I'm able to keep the lights up. I'm able to keep common area grounds maintained, maintenance issues maintained. And just letting the tenants know that everybody has a part, that this money is just not coming into your hand. A small portion. I think I posted something from the National Apartment Association that showed a dollar bill, and then it divided up the dollar bill. Did you see that upon really where that dollar bill goes? So 9% of that dollar would really only go into my pocket. 30% goes to the mortgage. Another 20-something% goes to the maintenance on the property. So when they see it like that, they go, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, we really want to maintain the property. We really want to make sure that, we got a nice roof over our head. Pest control still is coming out here, whatever it may be. Just let them understand that, hey, guys, you're not hurting me. I'm not putting all this money in my pocket. This money is actually going back to keep the lights on in the common areas and the roof over your head. So, that's kind of the approach that I would have with my tenants, trying to get them to rally around the cause versus make an adversarial approach like, hey, look, did you go get your stimulus? Can I see proof that you've done it? Then that kind of creates that friction. I want to be able to have a buy-in with my tenants and be able to have that open line of communication. And the only way I found that worked for me in the past recession, keeping everyone, keeping me in the loop and everyone working together, is to present it in such a way that we're all one team.
Yeah, it sounds like a great advice. Thank you very much, Bryan. Appreciate it.
Yes, that was a great question, by the way. And Nathan, I would wrap this up too, and just, really kind of communication is going to be key. So, just to kind of piggyback on that, the question, when you're sending out the notices and you're making the phone call, just understand that you want to make the phone call and you want to include everybody in as a team member. All your tenants, they don't care if you have a single family home or a duplex, you want to include them like this is a team effort. And you want to explain to them that, hey, listen, this money's not going in my pocket. This money goes back, the majority of the dollar, every dollar that you pay in your rent goes back into the property, maintaining the property. And we all have a role to play in the maintenance of this property. And when the buy-in like that on the community, that also starts from day one with when you move in your tenants and you have the move-in meeting. That's why I'm an advocate of the move-in meeting and going through and meeting with your tenants and things of that nature and having that constant communication, because, you don't, in a time of crisis is now the time to start reaching out to your tenants, because then it kind of seems a little bit ingenuous, you know what I mean? Where it's like, or disingenuous when it's like, yeah, of course you're saying we're a team now because you can't pay your mortgage. Now we're a team. When I was trying to get you in here to handle the maintenance issue, fix the leaky toilet, we weren't a team then. So, it also, this is something that we also got to look at each other look at ourselves in the mirror and realize, what type of operators have we been to this point. If we've been poor operators, now this is going to be an opportunity for us to kind of correct our ways and make sure that a lot of the stuff that I talk about in Buy It, Rent It, Profit, a lot of stuff that I talk about on our podcast about communicating with your tenants, whereas when things were really going well, people weren't really listening to what I was saying. But now, now they understand why the things,
Right.
why I talk CEOTA and those things like that, is
Right.
because, it's important.
Excellent. Hey, Jason has a question. We got Jason Leak. Hey, Jason, feel free to ask your question, man.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yep.
How you doing, gentlemen?
Good. Thank
Good.
you.
I've been in negotiations with this building for a couple of months now. So needless to say, it's at like a high point for what we're going through, right? So with your experience, would you continue in the process with this purchase at this price point now, or would you back out and kind of wait to see where this is going and where the dust settles and then try to revisit this negotiation?
Yeah, Jason, that's an excellent question. I know I said that to everybody, but good questions tonight. Okay, so again, here's the answer, and the answer is coming from wisdom, and the answer is coming from a focus group of one. Keep that in mind. I don't know your personal situation. I don't know the deal. I don't know the location. I don't know anything. So I'm really at a huge disadvantage. So I'm just giving you a 10,000 square foot. Typically what I'm doing personally is I'm pausing everything, because I don't think everyone is really understanding how much of a recession we're actually going to be heading into. I'm not 1,000% confident, and I'm not a politician. I don't ever talk politics. I'm a straight shooter. I'm not 100% confident in the current administration's ability to navigate. A lot of knee-jerk reaction. I think they'll perfect it and they'll get it right. But at the end of the day, I'm really concerned about how deep of a recession this is going to be. Now, with that being said, you can anticipate prices to become, there was an article written, I forgot who wrote it, a research firm said that CMBS backed debt, if the interest rate actually ticked up 1%, I think I said this on our podcast, if it ticked up 1%, that it over 51%, if not greater, loans would go into default. That's crazy. That means that's there's a lot of properties over there, out there right now that are over leveraged. So, basically we're having that kind of impact. COVID-19 is having that type of impact. No, the interest rate didn't rise, but we're having that kind of impact on debt. You're going to see a huge amount of defaults. So it's my opinion that if I'm in acquisition mode like you're in right now, absolutely, it's smart money. If my money was tied in with you, I'd be telling you to pause. If you were a partner, or if you were a part of Chavis Capital, I'd be telling you. I don't know if Joe is on the call tonight, but Joe handles acquisitions. But at the end of the day, for Chavis Capital, at the end of the day, I'm telling them to tread lightly, be cautious of anything that comes in, even deals that we're getting right now, because I still think that that these discounts haven't dropped. The discounts haven't even happened yet. So for you to be in the negotiations right now, for me, it's not smart business right now. I would say pause, hold off a little bit, because I think we're really about within 6 months to 9 months, you're really going to get a clearer picture of the default rate. And then that's when you're going to be able to pick up properties at a discount. That's when you're going to really be able to see those REOs and a lot of things. And, you're going to be able to kind of, as a value add and a guy that's been on the sidelines waiting for discounts for over a decade. Now you're going to start to see those discounts, and you're going to start to see individuals who are really smart in their underwriting and also have access to capital start making moves on properties and picking up properties at a discount. So just be patient. This is chess. This is definitely not checkers.
All right.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Excellent.
Probably one of the news you wanted to hear, but man, I'd rather you be. Someone once told me an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure.
We've got another question from Evan Lerner. Evan, you're unmuted, so feel free to ask your question, man.
Hey, thank you guys for having this. I'm actually from Tampa as well, so I really appreciate just getting to hear you talk anytime I do, Brian. I had a question about the single family property manager. Just curious kind of what technology you might advise them if you have, a technology stack or different technologies you would advise like a single family property manager to adopt in the coming months.
Technology, there's a lot of platforms out there, Evan, like the property management software that's out there that makes life a lot easier. But when it comes to a single family rental, it depends on, may I ask you how many you have? Is it 1? Is it 5? Is it 20?
So I actually, I work for a vendor. It's actually called Homey on Demand. So we
I
offer,
know.
yeah, repairs and maintenance. So really just trying to solve problems, bringing immediacy to executing those work orders for tenants. But I like the technology as a whole in real estate. So just wanted to pick your brain, because you know the business so well. So I'd be curious to see your thoughts, even for multifamily as well. Just what you think of the whole arena and how it's going to change.
Now, when you say how is it going to change, can we go? Can you? So
Yeah.
let's, like when you talk about the technology as far as single family homes, you want to, kind of elaborate a little bit about you asking me more about technology as it pertains to software like property management software, or the ability to implement something like Homey on Demand. Kind of, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I'd be curious just to get your point of view, maybe on the different players, whether it's something like a Homey in repairs and maintenance, or somebody like AppFolio in just a property management software, different players that you think are going to be, really the best tools for a single family property manager versus just kind of best tools.
Right.
Best
So
ones, yeah.
that's a great question. So let's talk best tools. So if I have a single family operation right now, again, those are break-even ratios. So you have to be really smart. So you have to make sure products like any kind of maintenance product out there, that the price point makes sense. Sometimes some of these products and these services are really cool. But sometimes they price out the single family home operator. Unless the single family home operator is smart and has, a single family lease in place where it says that the tenant is responsible for the repairs up to $250. So what I would do then is make the responsibility upon, if I felt like something like on demand was just slightly expensive, too expensive for me, then I would put that cost upon that burden on my prospect tenant when they had a work order that, that they had to use the application, and they had to pay up to $250. Anything over that, then, I would chip in, because the technology is extremely useful. I'm very familiar with Homey on Demand. It's just the price point sometimes could price people out of the convenience of the product. Things like AppFolio and Buildium, those, even with single family and duplexes and small apartment buildings, I feel like the AppFolios and Buildium allow you to be a much more efficient operator. It allows you to have a greater access to communication with your tenants. So I feel like technology in property management in general, has come a long way. I do feel like products like Homey on Demand, just speaking directly to your organization, I think, if you guys can weather a few storms and change a few things around, a little bit more than you currently have, I think it's a very useful product, and I think it's something that can make sense. And eventually, like all technology, it gets cheaper and cheaper. And I feel like, if you guys can tweak a few things here and there, I really feel like you can bring value to the marketplace. Right now, I kind of feel like it's slightly overprices. Prices a lot of operators out of the opportunity to use the product. And that's something that, the organization as a whole has to kind of look into and make sure that, Price point's important, and then also making sure that when these vendors go out there to do the call, that they're just not trading the phone number saying, hey, listen, just call me direct versus using
Sure.
the product. Just call me direct. Here's my number. And you have that problem. So how do you overcome those hurdles, things of that nature, making sure the incentive for the maintenance technician, excuse me, is there, and making sure that the price point makes sense and the engagement. So, because the argument can be made, we all overpay for coffee when we go to Starbucks. So, it's like you got Starbucks and you got Wawa. It's the same damn coffee. Wawa's what, 60 cents? Starbucks is $3. But the line at Starbucks is around the corner. People are paying the $3 or $6 for the coffee, whatever it may be. So we all know that sometimes price point, it ain't all about price point, but what Starbucks has done that I think Homie hasn't is Starbucks has created a culture. They got their own language. They got their own vibe. They got their own meeting spot. They created a great culture. And therefore, people want to buy into a culture. Everybody wants to buy in and be a part of something. So what they've done was a great job of buying in, where I think Homie lacked was that buy-in, creating a culture. That's something that I think that, all tech companies will really need to hone in on is they're great at being tech, but they're not great at really understanding the business and what property management and what owning property is really all about at high levels, at all levels. And that's really creating that culture. So where people are willing to overpay for a product because of the culture, if that makes sense.
It does, Bryan. Thank you for that insight. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Nate, we got any more?
Looks like, no more questions at the time. Got 30 plus people on the.
We got 30 quiet people. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. My father used to tell me, closed mouths don't get fed. I mean, ask your questions. I know a lot of people probably just sit back and just, are listening, which is cool. But, everybody, this is for you guys. This is definitely not for me and Nathan.
Would love to hear about some of your guys' goals, with the recession, looking to buy some properties in 2020. Anybody want to share their goals for acquiring new property?
Hey, Bryan, this is Rick again. I guess I'll keep speaking.
Wake these folks up, Rick.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey, I'm actually going through your book again on Audible for the first time because I read it, the paperback, a few times, but I was like, let me try it on Audible. And your boy on there, I was hoping it was you that was reading, but your boy on there says the SEOAT. I'm like, oh shit, what is it? I'm like CO.
Brian, yeah.
But I had a question because obviously I want to buy more property, and with you saying, hey, put everything on pause for 6 to 9 months. For someone like me who's looking to expand, and I've said on prior calls, looking to get out of my current career. I mean, it pays well, but it's just not something I'm passionate about. I'm looking to either go into property management or buying more of my own deals, et cetera. What would be the next move for someone like me that is looking to buy property, but may now wait 6 to 9 months or 3 months, depending where this thing shifts, every day it changes. What would be your advice for someone like me for as far as like a next move just in their real estate journey?
That's a good question. The number one thing that everybody on this call should do is focus on fundamentals. You're doing the right things. Educate yourself. Find somebody that you can get around, that you can learn from, and you educate yourself. One of the things that I also, then people do take that advice, but then I see that they're studying this discipline and this discipline and this discipline, wholesaling, flipping, find out what you want to do, hone in. If it's multifamily and growing your portfolio, then you need to understand everything you can about finance. You need to understand everything you can about asset management and management. And, you need to understand if you can't sit here, what you want to do is you want to be able to hold a webinar like this and answer questions off the top of your head. That is the goal you should have for yourself within the next year, is to develop your skills in such a manner that, you may not want to do this and put yourself out there like this and have anybody, be open to have anyone ask any question and you be put on the spot to answer it. I mean, that's a tough, hot seat, but to be able to know that you could subconsciously, if you wanted to, that is the goal that I would want you to have, is I want you to develop your skill sets. As far as like the opportunities and don't worry about opportunities, because right now that when you have the skill sets, you're able to be wise enough to spot the true opportunities. The one thing you got to also understand is every opportunity ain't an opportunity, and you can't let anyone rush your timeline. So your timeline is your timeline. I'm not concerned about your timeline. I'm not concerned about what opportunities may be coming in 6 to 9 months. Yeah, that's me, because I mean, I'm long in the tooth. I know this game, and I'm talking more so from my perspective. But if I'm talking to you directly and coaching you one-on-one, I'm telling you, don't worry about timelines. Don't worry about 6 to 9 months. Let it all play out the way it's going to play out. What you need to be worried about is being ready. I can give a care less about the timeline, because if you ain't really ready, then who cares about the timeline? If I put a deal in front of your lap and you're not ready, who cares about the timeline? It'd be like me, again, taking the car keys and handing it to my 5-year-old daughter. She's not ready for car keys right now. It's not time for that. There will be a time for that, but it's not now. So timing is everything. So, for you, it's focusing on making sure that you're mentally ready and you have the skill set to be successful, to build the business. There's going to be more recessions to come. This might not be you. You may miss the boat on this one. You may. I'm not saying you will. You may. But, at the end of the day, bro, there's going to be others. Right now, all you have to do is focus on developing the skills, understanding what it takes to operate. Because I'm going to be honest with you, and I say this every time we all come together, there's a hell of a lot of experts. When I got sick in 2012 and I went away, and then I started coming back, I noticed that in 2009, I wrote the only book on this stuff, me and a guy named David Lindell, and there was only a few people talking it. Mr. Landlord, there's only a few people. Then I stepped back in the scene, and there's a million gurus on multifamily. To be honest with you, out of maybe 15, one that I would say, okay, they're probably legit. Most of these guys have no freaking clue what they're doing. They're talking to you about raising money, markets, shit that you can Google, you know what I mean, and find out for yourself by reading a couple of articles, going to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's websites directly, Building's websites, Appfolio's websites directly. You can learn a lot about various different things. But a lot of folks come short on the operational side. You get to really see who's swimming, naked right now. No one's talking operations. These guys are just talking about markets and opportunities and how to put the finance together, the deals together. That's exactly what they've done. And they went out there and got their investors' money, but they used leverage to get those returns. And now they've been saying, use third-party property management. And, at the end of the day, the property manager is not out at risk. They're at risk. They're the general partners. So at the end of the day, man, it's skill set. I've been saying this from day one, but again, no one listens when things are going well and the music is playing. But when the music stops, now everybody's listening. And so what I'm telling you is focus on skills. Forget all this other stuff. Focus on developing yourself as an individual, as a real estate investor. Take your finance courses. Understand, get your license as you want to do. Understand what it takes to develop a property management company. Build a mock property management company out right now. You know what I mean? I'll be glad to show you how to develop management plans so you're able to compete and be competitive and really understand the industry. And that's what you really need to focus on. As far as opportunities, those will come to you, Rick, when you can truly identify them.
Yeah, so. and I'm not worried about missing some boat or some discount. I mean, like I said, I was going to look at deals now and buy based on, does it work and do the numbers make sense, even if you drop rents a little bit. But so I'm not looking to position myself like I need to find the right time. But I think what you say makes sense, just with the volatility in the market right now, just to kind of hold off. So yeah, I'll just work on that, keep listening to the book on repeat and seeing what other nuggets I can keep picking up. Yeah,
trust me, I probably got a few more. I got a few more nuggets in the books, and keep jumping on these calls, man, and sharpening your skills. is going to be the smartest thing that you can do. And then, go ahead and develop the management company. Those are the things that you can go ahead and do now. Develop the management company, develop the business plan, develop the model, get everything in place. You don't have to turn it on, but go ahead and get acquainted with your management software that you're going to use. Understand how to put together management plans. Go ahead and build out this management company. Start developing your scripts now to speak to investors. So if I was sitting like you and I'm trying to develop a different skill while I'm working a full-time job, I'm working on my scripts. I'm working on my ability to touch and reach out to investors who I think are going to be in trouble, able to start developing relationships with banks as a real estate professional. Let them know, hey, look, when these properties start going into default, I'll be glad to become your receivers. I'll be a receiver for you, which means a lot of these properties are going to go into receivership, which they're going to need temporary property management. That's a perfect end for you to slide in between the bank. And so if you are dealing with a few syndicators like me, then you can call me and say, Bryan, I just received a 40 unit, 150 unit as we're doing receivership for XYZ bank. This is a great deal. I think you can pick it up at a dime. They want to get rid of it and off their balance sheets. So as a receiver, you'll be able to do either, raise capital and go at that deal yourself, or send that to a syndicator like myself. And, of course, as a licensed professional, you're able to receive your commission. So, right now I would be working on my scripts, calling banks, letting them know that you have a property management company. You'd be glad to do a receivership. You're a hard worker. You're not concerned about, where the property is located. You're ready to go. You have experience, be able to shoot that resume over with your certifications and your experience. But these are the things that I'd be doing right now, developing my scripts to be able to talk with investors, how you could step in as a management company and help take over their property if they're stressing, about some of the things that were the very topics that we're talking about tonight are a lot of the topics that all across America, people are suffering throughout the county. These are things that you can do and put out marketing materials and shoot videos, get on social media and use it as a platform to make some sense and develop yourself versus taking pictures of your food and what you've eaten and the concerts that you've been at, which is great. I'm sure that's great for your family, but that ain't really, utilize it to put some money in your pocket, utilize it to build a brand and say something that people actually want to hear, versus regurgitating stuff that everyone else is saying. And so I think, right now these are just some actionables that I think you can do right now. Regurgitate what you're listening to on Buy It, Rent It, Profit. And get out there and develop your, a database of owners. Be working on that right now, and teaching them and telling them how you can help them.
Love it. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
That was a lot. Got a whole page there.
There you go.
My man.
Nice. B, we got about 4 more questions and we're running low on time here. So I want to make sure that we touch everyone's questions.
Okay.
Hassan, you asked about SBA small business loans. Would you like to ask your question? All right, I'll ask it for him. It says, do you recommend the SBA small business loan for loss of income and repairs?
I don't know. It depends on the terms. Any kind of loan, borrowing any money, I can't really tell you yay, nay, because I don't know anything about your loan. I don't know anything about your finances. I don't know anything about the property. I know nothing. So, to ask a question about borrowing money, the question then has to be flipped back on the individual. What are we talking about? Why are we borrowing money? What are we borrowing money against? Do I believe in what we're borrowing money against? Do I think it's going to bounce back? Some areas are not going to bounce back, people. Let's just be honest. There's certain areas that when you buy these properties, because you bought in these moderate to low income neighborhoods, because you were going after, riskier assets. That's why you were getting a higher cap rate, because they're riskier. That's why you got the higher cap rate, and now you're getting burned. I'm not Jehovah. I can't turn water into wine. You know what I mean? I can do a lot in property management, but walk on water ain't one of them, and turning wine or water into wine is another I can't do. So, a lot of times if you bought these deals that are risky, this is why I personally said I was staying away from it because I did it. I went after the high returns back in 2008, 2009, and I took a, I got beaten with a big stick. And so then I knew then as a young man, I was like, okay, I'm going to change my philosophy. I understand the demographics and psychographic game better than anybody. I'm going to start banking on, and that's when I coined that whole thing. Buildings don't pay rent. People pay rent. That's where that came from. So, that question is a good question, but unfortunately, without having certain, information, about what we're borrowing against, I really can't tell you if it's a good idea or not, because not all good money not all money is good money. Not all debt is wise debt. Sometimes you got to know when to cut bait. They say sometimes you got to know when to cut bait with the property. So, I need more information to be able to tell you whether or not it's a good deal or not.
Right. Hey, Nona has another question from Callie. Nona, would you like to ask your question?
Yes. I guess I will ask my question. So, first of all, I really appreciate, Bryan, your operational kind of approach, because I love operations, and it's all about watering the flowers, like you said, coming back every day and water flowers. This is where you start. So when I got my buildings 3 years ago, I just decided to manage it myself, so I can just basically learn everything what I need to learn. And about beginning of January, I raised our net operating income to such a big extent for 3 years that I said, okay, I'll refinance and get something else. And at that point, I decided to kind of look around. And at that time, I learned all about syndication and underwriting and all these different things that were like a brand new world to me. So as you mentioned in your reply to Rick a moment ago, is that right now I'm trying to figure out exactly, I love multifamilies and I love operations. So I just need to figure out exactly, I'm figuring out what I need to learn, and then I will learn it, and then I will see what comes after that. So my question to you is, what are your recommendations for mastering the underwriting skills?
Good question again. That's easy. So underwriting, it's fun. And I know everyone gets excited and you get a spreadsheet and you have a spreadsheet and you put all this stuff in. But the problem is that people don't really focus on when it comes to underwriting is that you have to you have to understand that underwriting is based upon what? Assumptions. So if you're assuming and you know nothing about the market and you know nothing about the COTA process, strategic evaluation of a target area, and you don't really understand the demographics and psychographics of your prospect tenant, and think about them as you're putting your assumptions into the software and building out your P&Ls and your balance sheets in there, and then developing your waterfall structures and all the various different things that come after your returns. If the assumptions are wrong, then the whole entire process was for naught. And so when you're talking about underwriting, I'm not really concerned that you know the definition of IRR. I'm not really concerned that you know the definition of debt coverage ratio or net present value or discount rates or any of that. I'm more so concerned that you understand how to put in the proper assumptions and how even being off slightly with your assumptions can really affect the investment. And that's what you're seeing now is a lot of people went to these boot camps and things of that nature and learned, a very basic approach to underwriting, but didn't really understand, because they skipped over the property management aspects, really didn't understand how property management really was drilling down to giving you sound assumptions to be able to put into these models. You're just banging numbers, and it's fun when the market is going good and when really there's nothing to the music wasn't going to stop. Everybody was dancing. The party was fun. So you can put in any kind of number to a certain extent and you still look like a genius. But moving forward, that's not going to be the case. And, I would say right now, with your underwriting, just focus on underwriting from a property management and asset management perspective would be the number one thing that I could advice that I could give you. And then what does that mean? That means strategic evaluation of target area, understanding building permit activity, household income, average household size, mortgage interest rates, demographics, psychographics. Demographics tell you who your tenant is. Psychographics tells you the why. So really understanding what that whole process is, SEOTA, strategic evaluation of a target area, and how that information is what you're going to use to put into your as your assumptions in your underwriting model, is going to help you be a much more sound underwriter.
This is awesome. Thank you very much, Bryan. Very, very cool answer. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Richard has politely raised his hand. Richard, love for you to chime in and ask your question to Bryan.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Thank you for having this call, hosting this call. This is my third week that I, since I've heard or got introduced to you. Bryan, actually, we spoke last week, and it was a great conversation as well. So actually, this week here, I'll be signing up for the multifamily matrix. I'll make it quick, and it's simple.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll make it simple and quick. When you closed on the property in St. Pete, how long was the acquisition process? How long did that take? That's my question.
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, really fast, because I paid cash for it and I knew it was a good deal. Because I was anticipating, of course, I wasn't anticipating COVID-19, but I was anticipating some sort of recession. And I seen that there was still value and meat on this bone. And I knew it wasn't going to last long. Where it's located in downtown St. Pete, either a developer was going to come scoop it up, or I knew it wasn't going to last long. So I offered cash and said, well, we would close. Did a 30-day in the contract, but I promised them I would close within 10 days, and I closed within 10 days. We closed for $2.6 million.
Wow, that's powerful, man.
Got another question for hey, Rich, thanks for asking that question, man. We look forward to seeing you in the Matrix. Tom actually has a question for you as well. Tom, would you like to chime in and ask your question to Bryan?
Yeah, this Tom. Hi, Bryan. I bought your book and I read your book. So I have few rental property where I guess at this time the tenants start missing the payment. So I just wonder what's the step that we need to do in order to talk to the bank regarding to the loan payment process.
Yes, sir. So here's the thing.
Thank you.
Great question. So here's the thing. Before we call the bank, gather your 3 months rent roll, be able to provide a P&L, a current balance, a balance sheet, and maybe even a cash flow. Be able to provide your financials, a good 3 months rent roll, current P&L, and then really your story of why the hardship, to be able to prove it in the P&Ls and in the rent rolls, how certain percentage of your tenants weren't able to pay rent, and be able to sell the picture on why this is a burden on your operations and how you're not able to maintain the property, and that you feel like this particular situation, how the property ran. And to this point, you've been an awesome operator. So the reason why you're not able to pay your debt is not because of operations, because you've paid. Look at your history. The reason why you're not able to pay your debt clearly is because of COVID-19, and be able to sell that story, to be able to show them and have all your documentation, as well as a paragraph or two on why, simple paragraph or two, no more than two, on why COVID-19 has brought you to a halt or bottlenecked operations, and the importance of making sure that as a partner, the bank realizes this and allows you to some sort of forbearance, and allows you to use the money that you are making to pay down maintenance and debt. And, you got to sell that picture. They're going to push back and say, well, don't you have money? Aren't you able to go into your own pocket? So you got to be able to sell hardship yourself, and that unfortunately you may not be able to do a capital call or have access to money at this time because, whatever your personal hardship may be, you got to be able to sell that picture. And, you've got to also give them confidence that you're a good operator. And the way to do that is to show and be prepared. So just don't pick up the phone and call and say, oh my God, I need help. When you call, you want to be able to have already sent an email over first that's in their inbox and have been there at least for 24 hours of your 3 months rent roll, definition of hardship, and why COVID-19 has bottlenecked operations, why it's important that you loosen up operations. What are you going to do with that money? How is it going to be deployed into the back into the rental property? And then what are you doing to try to work with some of your tenants to collect rent? Financing some of the things that I talked about today, being able to finance some of their rental payments. So you want to put 2 or 3 strategies, no more, of what you're doing to get ahead of things and what you plan on doing to keep ahead of things. But you're asking for a simple request as a partner to, to give you 90 days to, to navigate this ship. So the main thing is just going to them with a plan, and not just going to them and asking, for relief, if that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you, Brian.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Shelly asked a great question, and maybe you can explain this. So she said she's not familiar with syndication. Is that the same as fractional ownership? She got introduced to fractional ownership over the weekend.
No, it's not. Fractional ownership, I don't know much about it, but fractional ownership really depends on the operating agreement and what that means. Are you a fractional owner? What percentage do you own? What say you have, which is probably fractional owner. You don't have really any say in the matter. Syndication is more, you're a general partner, sponsor. You raise money through the SEC guidelines or exemptions, 506B and C. And you're allowed to legally raise money through these exemptions, other people's money, to go after a deal, partner with a deal where these other individuals are limited partners and put money into a project. You promise them a return on their investment, and then you hand them a document that tells them probably 1,000 reasons why they shouldn't invest with you and why their money is at risk. And that's the 60 seconds of definition of what a syndication is, but they're different. And you can Google syndication or Wikipedia syndication. Go to our website. You're going to see some, solid definitions of a syndication. I think we got a couple of courses inside the Matrix that explain syndications in depth. I know I shot a video on it not too long ago in the studio, so I know there's information out there. And then we leak a lot of it to the public through social media, so you're able to go to our YouTube channel, and I guarantee you'll find everything you need to know inside some of those YouTube channels as well that we have. Nate can tell you more about that.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. It's 9 o'clock right now.
Yes. I am tired. I've been
Okay.
running after a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old for 2 days now. So I've been daddy daycare, man. So I've been up since, I'm already up, but
Right.
this has been a different kind of up when you're running after your kids, man. Getting up and meditating at 3 or 4 in the morning ain't like getting up changing diapers. I can tell you that right now. So I done got my butt kicked. So
Right on. Hey, well, before we go, just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware. We also do our private coaching sessions every Thursday. We developed what's called the Multifamily Matrix. Brian and I spent several months shooting over 130 videos on asset management, property management, syndication, the whole nine. You actually have the ability to become a certified rental investment specialist. You have access to our private Multifamily Matrix community, private live streams, private Q&A sessions. We're working with Brian every single week in the Matrix, similar to these, but we're very focused in on your goals. Membership pricing on special events when we have live events and live trainings. We have a founding member special right now, starting at $100 a month. So immense value to be able to have access to all your resources. You actually have access to all your forms for property management as well, cloud storage, everything you need, discounts on other products and services as well. So it's just a great program that we put together. We wanted to try to create something that was quite economical, so that we can help you reach your goals. And so having wise counsel for $100 a month while you're growing your portfolio, can't really beat that. And we just hope that you guys join us each week. And it's definitely been a pleasure speaking with you guys. And we look forward to catching up with you guys next week. Hey, B, thanks so much for joining me, man.
thank you, man. I greatly appreciate it. Everybody stay blessed, stay safe.
Take care, guys.
Take care. Good night.
like